Today's podcast is brought to you by a company who we have been using for years and takes up significant shelf space inside of our own kitchen. BioSteel Sports Nutrition.
It was a product created out of necessity 8 years ago and is trusted by athletes like Connor McDavid, Tyler Seguin, Brooke Henderson, Rosie McLennan, and Andrew Wiggins.
They're really a leader in sports drinks for everyone from professional athletes to everyday champions.
Understand something, guys. Nothing worth ever having in this world comes easy.
Do what these champions doing if you're going to be a champion.
You control your outcome.
Who am I?
I'm a champion.
What up, champions, and welcome back to a brand new BioSteel Breakdown. As always, I'm your host, Adrian, with my co-host,
Sylvie.
We're breaking it down. If it's your first time, welcome. If you're a long-time listener, thank you for your loyalty. We appreciate it. You know what we do, right? And we got a fun topic this week. Or at least a different topic anyway. And it's funny, I was just talking with my brother about potentially going camping. And I feel like as children, our parents would take us camping. Although we kind of camped in luxury, truthfully. Like I remember going camping and eating steak and like, I don't know.
It was definitely not what I ate camping.
Yeah, like we had a lot of good food when we went camping. Like bacon wrapped veal. Like we did it up. And I don't know if we would do it at that degree. But we were talking about getting back into camping. And that kind of feeds into today's topic, right? And we were talking about how this is something that needs discussed more often. And what did you call it? Vitamin N. Vitamin N.
It's a nerdy nutrition thing for sure.
Is it? Mm-hmm. That's what nutritionists call vitamin N? Is there a vitamin N?
No.
No? Okay. Well, guys,
there is. We're going to talk about it.
So we're talking about vitamin N, which is nature, or nature, if you've seen that hilarious YouTube video. And more specifically, we're talking about NDD, which is not technically a medical term, but has been kind of globally accepted, or at least universally accepted within that community, and that's nature deficiency disorder. And this is something that I got into kind of recently, I would say, within the last year after reading Unplugged, which is a book by Brian McKenzie and Andy Galpin, and maybe someone else, and I feel bad if I'm forgetting who the third author is.
Phil White.
And thank you. And so they were talking about how the landscape of tech wearables has changed how we interact with nature, and I think it's something really important to talk about. And then I kind of went down the rabbit hole a little bit more, and there's a few other books on it. But we are undoubtedly nature deficient in our lives now. So we're not exposed to the same amount of outdoor stimulus that we used to be. And I think a lot of times we talk about, I don't think what we're doing is obviously amazing. Like we're using laptops and cell phones and we're recording and we're creating all this stuff. And I think that's amazing. And if people think that it was better before, it probably wasn't. But it's also important to understand that who we are biologically hasn't changed that much, and so we need certain things that we're not achieving at the same level. And so we've kind of substituted the experience. So rather than going out and we were just talking about camping, instead of going out into Algonquin Park and setting up a tent and setting up a fire and camping facing a lake and then photographing that, we're just looking at the photograph and clicking the like button, and we're substituting it. And we think that we have the same experience that the people that went and actually set it all up and then recorded it have. And obviously that's false. And I mean, it's present in adults, but even more so with children. So kids are having less than 30 minutes a day of outdoor activity now. They're looking at, this was interesting, this is probably from like 5 or 6 years ago, but they're looking at changing words within the Junior Oxford Dictionary. So taking out words like beaver and otter and substituting in like blog and Twitter. And so kids don't even know what those animals are anymore. So they're struggling to identify them. So of course they don't want to go out and experience them. And so that's to their detriment, because now we're seeing more anxiety disorders, more attention deficit disorders, lack of clarity, poor focus, all those things. Sleep patterns being a big one, and lower life expectancy. So I know you've talked about this before, but looking at vitamin D and circadian rhythms. And so we're designed to be outside, and that's how our clocks work. And so if we're always inside, we become this kind of like Twilight-esque character where we feed off of all this different light. And so we don't go to sleep when we're supposed to, and we don't wake up when we're supposed to. And so we have these increased rates of comorbidity, and we have a shorter life expectancy than our previous generation, despite having so many more tools and medical advancements. And so that's been something I think really eye-opening for me. And then on top of that, you feel good. There's something innately beneficial and innately satisfying about spending time out in nature. We went over the holidays on a sleigh ride with a bunch of the family, and it was great just to be out there and walking around the woods, and there's snow and there's some creatures and there's trees, and at the end of it you feel as if you've accomplished something, and you've got this amazing endorphin release from this fresh air and this exercise. And so that's my rant about how we're not getting enough nature. And so then the second part of that is how do we combat that? How do we put actionable steps in to improve our overall livelihood? And so I think at least the three things that I've targeted, and you're 100% responsible for the first one, and then the other two are just good things to do. The first one is to green up your environment. And I'm not sure like how much the cameras show on here, but we have a plethora of plants now in our house. We've got a young broadleaf fiddle. What is it?
Yeah, it's a broadleaf fiddle tree.
Oh, broadleaf fiddle tree that's just blossoming, and we're hoping eventually it takes over like a Jumanji-esque character. But no, we have a ton of plants, and there's a ton of research supporting that having greenery in your environment is beneficial. It's good for oxygen release. I know that we were specific on some of the plants. So we have is it a snake plant? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, there's several different varieties of the snake plants, but we have one of the varieties in our bedroom which helps with sleep patterns.
And that is because rather than releasing oxygen during the day, like most plants, this plant releases it at night. So when you're sleeping, the CO2 that it's stored is released at night. So the first thing is to green up your environment. It looks great. There's a couple of awesome companies. There's a girl out of Hamilton. I don't know her. She's a friend of a friend, and she has an amazing company that I will link up as soon as I check the name. And they essentially green up your spaces. They come in and create these amazing work environments. The second one is to take micro nature breaks. And so it's to force yourself to go outside. And so we spend so much time indoors. We spend like 85% of our time in the house, and then we spend another like 7 or 8% in the car. And so we never go outside. So this is organized and forced outdoor breaks. And I know that it's kind of it's not easier, but it's more inviting when it's a warm climate. It's harder when you're in a cold climate like today where it's windy and frigid. But just being outside, walking, having some sunshine on your face, having some fresh air is unbelievably valuable. And so that's the second thing, is to schedule micro nature breaks in your day. And then the last thing is to take an extended stay in nature. So whether that's camping, whether that's hiking, whether that's, I don't know, surfing, whether that's, it really doesn't matter, but be somewhere where you are more connected to the outdoors and less connected to technology. And that's just great for our mental health. I think the average vacation, or not the average vacation, but it takes on average 6 to 8 days to rewind and feel relaxed from a vacation. And so with that in mind, try and schedule a week to go do something outside. And if you want to go somewhere warm, that's great, but do more than just sit on the side and drink pina coladas and margaritas. Go explore, be a part of that environment and that culture and that nature. So that was a rant. I'm done. That's it for me. As always, head over to the website, biosteel.com. You can use the code word
Champ Lifestyle, capital C, capital L.
You can get 15% off your very next order. You can take that stuff with you when you're out in nature, when you're foraging. All right, that's it. We'll see you next Friday.